Hey everyone, I know that this is a little different from what you're used to, but due to the current COVID epidemic, we're joining the forces of everyone that's working from home. Oppo recently released the Oppo Reno3 Pro, which is a mid-ranger priced at around €370. This is a bit high, but it's a gorgeous phone. It has 4 cameras in the back and it has a bunch of other features. So is that enough to justify the price tag? I'm Angie for GSM Arena, and this is our Oppo Reno3 Pro review. The Oppo Reno3 Pro has a beautiful gradient on the back that really catches the light. It's made of glossy polycarbonate on the back and sides and has Gorilla Glass 5 on the front. On the bottom, you'll find a downward-facing speaker, a USB-C port, and a headphone jack. It's a comfortable hold, and due to its materials, it's surprisingly light. The optical fingerprint reader is fast, reliable, and accurate 90% of the time, so getting into the phone is no issue when it's in your hand. Buttons are clicky and one-handed use isn't too difficult, although the phone is a bit top-heavy, which might be annoying for some. The camera bump on the back might also be annoying because it sticks out and means the phone will definitely wobble if it's on a desk. On the front, you'll find slim bezels, a razor-thin earpiece, and a small double-hole punch in the upper left corner that eats up quite a bit of real estate. Honestly, more phones should just have them centered and as far up as possible. Now, the screen itself is a high-quality Super Amoled panel with a full HD resolution and a nice pixel density of 405 ppi. The panel boasts exceptionally high maximum brightness and can get 522 nits in manual mode and up to a crazy 892 nits in auto mode. Sunlight legibility on the Reno3 Pro is fantastic. Color accuracy isn't quite as amazing. Though it's undergone some color calibration before shipping, whites and grays are bluish and the phone doesn't offer many options in terms of color presets. The Reno3 Pro uses the MediaTek P95 chipset and 8 gigs of RAM. It performs about as well as the Samsung Galaxy A71 and Mi Note 10 in multi-core tasks, and falls a bit behind in some single-core tasks. In other words, it should be great for day-to-day performance, but heavier games might slow it down. Now, as far as battery life goes, the Reno3 Pro got an excellent 104 hours of endurance thanks to the 4025 mAh battery and power-efficient chipset. The 30-watt VOOC flash charging is just as good, and you can get a full charge in an hour and 12 minutes, or 67% in half an hour. The single bottom-firing speaker had good loudness in our music test. It was lacking in terms of bass, but vocals are good and it's more than adequate for its price. The Reno3 Pro is one of Oppo's first phones to launch with ColorOS 7 on top of Android 10. It's far from a stock Android skin, so if that's what you're looking for, I would steer clear of this one. Still, many will appreciate all its options. You can opt for an app drawer, change the theme, and change the icon styles. There's a dark mode too, which should allow for even better battery life. You can also adjust the speed of app animations. But one of the nicest choices to have is what sort of navigation you prefer. There's the classic navigation buttons, the standard, Android 10 gestures, and Oppo's own swipe up gestures, which require slightly less finger gymnastics. Perhaps one of the smartest additions of ColorOS is the auto switch to ear receiver gesture. If you got headphones or a speaker connected to the phone and you get a call, usually the call goes straight to the audio device. With the gesture, you can pick up the phone, put it close to your ear, and the phone will automatically switch the call from your Bluetooth device to the earpiece. In terms of cameras, the Reno3 Pro really has all the essentials thanks to its quad camera setup. There's a standard 64-megapixel quad-Bayer main camera, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide lens, a 13-megapixel telephoto, and an additional depth sensor. Photos shot during the day look excellent. We were impressed with the dynamic range and we like the punchy but not oversaturated colors. The detail is excellent, there's practically no noise, and contrast is great. The ultra-wide camera captured some good daylight shots too. The level of detail is lower than the main cams. The colors were more saturated and the dynamic range was less impressive. The lens correction, however, was great. The telephoto camera also had good detail, sharpness, contrast, and good dynamic range. As a whole, you can see that Oppo has tried being consistent with all of its cameras, even though the main cam naturally produces the best images out of the 3. At night with the main camera, the situation is okay. Photos were a bit on the soft side with visible noise. There is uneven sharpness in some areas too. The dynamic range was quite good though. Unfortunately, with the main camera, night mode made a lot of things worse rather than better. Over-sharpening halos are added to the scene, photos look softer, and details are from the level of regular photos. You should only use it if you're really after the punchier colors and want the shadows in particular to be restored. That said, if you use the ultra-wide camera at night, The situation is very different. With the ultra-wide camera, normal photos are okay but lack detail. With night mode, this gets a lot better, and there's a lot more sharpness and better contrast. As for the telephoto, it's the same situation as the main cam. There's general softness and noisy patches, and decent resolved detail. You should also know that in some rare cases at night, the software will opt to use the main camera and crop the image rather than use the telephoto. Turn on the night mode and things get worse with even more softness. The Reno3 Pro also has an ultra night mode that's triggered in exceptionally dark environments. Here it does make a difference, and if you're faced with a nearly pitch dark scene, you'll find it useful. When it comes to portraits, edge detection wasn't stellar, but you still got good dynamic range, nice contrast, and natural looking skin. The bokeh effect looked pretty good for the most part, aside from the occasional mistake with more challenging backgrounds. The Reno3 Pro can record 4K video at 30 FPS. Colors look natural, though a bit desaturated. Sharpness was good aside from some edge softness on the left, and we also spotted some noise in uniform areas. Contrast and dynamic range were very good. You can't record videos with the ultra-wide and telephoto cameras, so if you use the 2x button, you'll be recording a cropped clip. There's no EIS for 4K, but you can tap on the ultra steady icon, which uses some extreme cropping to reduce shakiness. The result was impressively fluid, aside from some loss in detail. There's also an ultra steady pro mode, which uses the ultra-wide camera instead of the main cam. Colors are punchier and contrast is a bit higher, and the field of view is wider, but stabilization isn't quite as good. The Reno3 Pro has the world's first 44-megapixel dual punch-hole camera. The main front cam is the 44-megapixel snapper, although strangely enough, the software uses 40 megapixels instead of the full 44. The second camera is a 2-megapixel depth sensor, so we expected to get some wicked good selfies. Photos were detailed, and you can expect natural skin tones, punchy colors, and a wide dynamic range. That said, when you switch to portrait mode, edge detection isn't stellar and the dynamic range gets noticeably worse. Oppo could have easily cut the second camera out and left you with more screen on the front of the phone. Selfies also have a night mode that seems to be more than adequate. Pictures are a little softer, but you can take photos in quite dim conditions. The Oppo Reno3 Pro is a great phone and we really enjoyed all of its features. However, in cases like this, it really boils down to the price and what the competition is. In this case, this phone doesn't have very good luck because it's up against the Redmi K20 Pro and the Realme X2 Pro. Both of those phones have flagship level chipsets, and the Realme has a high refresh rate screen. So while the Oppo is really a great device, you should wait a few months for the price to drop or only get it if you find a very good deal for it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button down below, subscribe, and more importantly, stay home and stay safe. See you next time.